Okay, so in the last call, actually, now we were discussing about the iteration 4, okay, and iteration 3 and iteration 4. Okay, so let me just continue from there. Yeah, yeah. So we were talking about the beans, right? That whatever we are creating for the gaming console and also the game runner, right? Uh, Sorry, the game and also the game runner. Okay, so the entire code whatever we are writing, actually we were trying to minimize the code which which is which is really not related to our functional, right? So that means object creation and or object whatever we are doing it for related to object, just creating those objects and also injecting those objects into another class wherever we required that object. So all these things are not a functional things. Okay, it is like the yeah. Yeah, so those things actually we wanted to as we learn on the Spring advantages, Spring actually want to take care of all those things. You don't require to create any of those beans, and you don't require to create any of the injecting those things before coming to your functional logic, right? So the till iteration 3 we were doing something related to create bean, or something related, we were doing everything like this, right? But in the iteration 4, okay, the last one, where we are seeing very advanced thing, to stop creating those beans manually. So let us tell the Spring it has to take care of it, right? So what are the changes that we have done till now, right? We have a separate gaming configuration class which was holding all the beans. Okay, so I removed that gaming configuration class and I bought all the beans into this one only, the gaming Spring Beans.java. Okay, so I bought it everything to here. And for the iteration 4, so I removed this complete method, right? I just removed this complete method, and what I've done, I have I have created um, only couple of changes. Okay, sorry, I have done some couple of changes. Okay, so one is this at the rate configuration. Okay, so this is not at all required. So if you go to the gaming console, not gaming runner, sorry, yeah, I think we might be getting an error, right? Yeah. Okay. So if you see here, so all the games are having holding, at the rate component as a annotation, so that what Spring does, right? Whenever a component scan happen, okay. So if you see here, we have just added component scan. So that means it is going to hold all the game related objects, okay. So because it is following the learn, dot game, and we declared everything as a direct component, so it is going to hold those object. Okay, that means Spring will take care of all the relate all the things, like about when we declare it as a component, so it is going to take care of it. Okay, so what happens, right, whenever the code starts, right, so it is going to create these things, these objects, like beans will be created, and one of them will be served to us. Okay, one of them will be served to this program. Okay, to the what we exactly doing, we are exactly running one of the game class, right? So I will just run this program for a minute. See, we were getting an exception, right? So why we are getting that exception, right? We have game runner. Okay, uh one second. Yeah, we have game runner defined, but we have three components for the game. Like, it is not one. Okay. So generally Spring will always expect, okay, one bean with that, one matching bean, for the, uh, to inject into the gaming console, right? So, but it found three: Mario Game and Pac-Man and Super Contra. That means, what did you understand? Like, when you write that at the rate component, okay, so Spring is automatically creating those beans. Okay, you don't require to worry. See, if you see here, right in the log, identified candidate for component class. So all these four classes, okay, are identified as, you know, components. Right. So what it is going to do next, okay, when you run this, okay, it is going to verify how many beans were present, to inject into the game runner class. There are three beans, okay. So that's why it is giving. I'm expecting only one match single bean, okay, but it is we have three beans. So which one I need to push it, to the game runner, right? That was the question. So what we need to do, simple way, just go back. Okay, yeah, just go to, why this is not going today. Yeah, so just go to which game that you wanted to do it, and just enable primary over there. Okay, add that primary over there. So, and just go back and just run into the program. That's it. So it executed. So if you compare the code between the previous classes, and whatever we have done it in simple Java, and whatever we've done it in the iteration 3 with the basic concepts of Spring, right? So the code is still minimized, right? We don't require this entire code, right? So what we have done, we just added couple of annotations, which can, which can, uh, which actually enabled, the code, um, which actually enabled lot of other things which can be, sorry, yeah. So we have added couple of what do we call, yeah, annotations. Okay, so these annotations are helping us, not to write, okay, the code which is really not necessary, for our functional side, right? So that means, Spring, whatever Spring advantages we have discussed earlier. So the Spring is, um, you know, really capable enough, um, to create those objects and to inject those objects wherever it required in the functional logic, right? So this is your functional logic. You wanted to run that gaming console and you have did it, and without creating a single object, manually, right? Manually means, something writing like this variable game is equals to new Pac-Man game. You did not write anything. Okay. Spring automatically taken care of all these things, right? Okay. So if you wanted to run any other game, right, Pac-Man or Mario game or anything, yeah, so you can still mainly do it as at the rate primary, and you can just run that, so it will be executing whatever the game which you wanted, right? So any questions on this? Okay, so we have done, with this example. So that means, whatever the code that you are overseeing here, it's only related to your functional logic, and there is nothing that we are, doing for object creation or object injection. All those things are, already done by taken care by Spring, right? You are not giving that, to the, which one? Yeah, to the game runner. You're not giving any. Yeah, if you see here, right, gaming runner. Yeah, game runner actually, is taking that gaming console. Uh, it requires a gaming console object. And if you see here, this is our gaming console. Okay, constructor, we are getting this gaming console, right? So I'm not calling anything this related to this game runner class. So Spring is automatically calling this, and it is assigning that game, whatever we are, whatever we made it as primary, and that primary game, is executing all these methods, right? So we are not writing anything related about object cycling, object creation and all, right? So let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, so we'll move to the next example.
No, Harsh.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, so Java compiler, so this is a local variable type inference. Okay, so this is like, the one which we are already doing, right? So in the programs, you might be saw that I'm declaring, most of the places I'm declaring with var, right? So yeah, var is kind of, which was introduced in Java 10, okay, which is kind of, like the same as like JavaScript. Whenever we wanted to declare something, we usually do it as var, correct? So the same way, we have it for Java 10 as well. And it is like, you can add final if you want to, var can be only used in the loops, okay? And remember, you cannot assign null, and var is not a keyword actually, cannot be used for member variables, method parameters, or return types. Okay, so it is only used for the places that we declare something, as you don't require to worry about which data type that you have to assign it. So whenever the compiler takes care, okay, check about that string or number, whatever you are passing. So it will be taking care of that, uh, the data type kind of, conflicts. Okay. So this is one of the concept which was introduced on Java 10. Okay. Yeah. So I just wanted to tell you about the loosely coupled and tightly coupled logic, right? So now if you see here, so how much loosely coupled that that our code looks like, right? So the code is like whatever you are seeing it. So if you really wanted to change to a different game that needs to be executed, right? So the easiest way, right, just go to the Mario game and comment this primary, and just go to the Pac-Man game and enable it as primary. Okay, and just run it. See, we have Pac-Man game executed, right? We have Pac-Man game as up, down, left, right. So all those got printed on the screen. See how much simple that, when the code is very loosely coupled, there will be very minimal change, to run each and every, to run different type of games, in the game runner class, right? So what I was trying to say here, right, of the coupling, right? How much work is involved in changing something? Okay, that was the question when we talk about coupling, right? So coupling is more important, everywhere. So something like this, okay. There are few things that we cannot change it. There are few things that we can still, change it properly with a very efficient way, right? So if you take the engine of a car, so which is really tightly coupled, and a wheel is loosely coupled to a car, right? Whenever we have some issue with the wheel, we generally replace it very fast, right? So you can, in the similar way, you can take a laptop anywhere you can go, right? But a computer with the having CPU and keyboard and all those things, right? So it is a little bit more difficult to, move. So that is like, tightly coupled with your desk, and this is like very loosely coupled. Wherever you want, you can take your laptop, right? So coupling is even more important in building a great software. Okay, so only thing constant in technology is change, right? So business requirement change, frameworks change, code changes. Okay, so everything will change, right? We want very loosely coupled code so that we have very minimal and very minimal functional changes, to make sure to achieve that less code changes, right? So whatever the things, that we learned, right, just now. So it is having very loosely coupled code. Okay, finally we achieved a very loosely coupled code, because if you remember the first step, whatever we have done it for changing the gaming class, we actually, uh, did change, two or three classes every time in the initial stages. Once we got this gaming console interface, we minimize that change into one class. And when we have the Spring level 1, okay, so we are not touching anything on the gaming side, but we still used couple of extra classes, to maintain those configurations. But when we have at the last iteration 4, we actually removed all those unnecessary code, okay, which can be handled by Spring. So that part, we call it as loosely coupled. We made a lot of changes, okay, to make our application loosely coupled, right? So remember, loosely coupled is very useful, very useful, to change your functional logic properly, right? So make sure whenever you write some code, you think about that loosely coupling and write it. Okay. Okay. So before going to this, okay, so I will tell you about the dependency injection and constructor injection. Okay, how it works, right? Okay, just a minute. Yeah. If you see here, this is a very basic example, okay, for the dependency injection. And 1 second, let me go to the, okay. So what I was trying to do, there are two different classes. One is dependency one and dependency two. Okay. So these are the plain, classes which I have created internally in the same dependency injection, right? The launcher application. Okay. So yeah, to play with them. Okay. So for the field injection and also the constructor dependency injection, right? So what I've done, actually, I have just used another annotation called auto wide. So whenever Spring, see this auto wide, right? So what it is going to do, so Spring will automatically inject that object, whatever it is created for that particular dependency one or dependency class, right, will be injected over here. That bean will be injected over here. And we have to make sure that, whenever you are just adding this auto wide, for an object creation, or for the reference, right? So what I'm doing here, dependency one, I'm just created a reference, and I did not instantiated anything, right? But I have used auto wide. So whenever you are doing such kind of things, remember that for the dependency class, you have to be adding it as component. Otherwise, Spring will not be able to identify where exactly this dependency one is there, right? And you have to make sure there is a component scan, right? As we are, utilizing at the same class, right? Business class and the dependency one, dependency two are in the same file. You really don't require to worry about writing the component scan. Okay, you can just add at the right component, so that Spring will be taking care of creating those beans and everything. Okay, it will be doing it, right? So yeah, let me try to, yeah. So let me go to the next step. Okay, so that's the reason we were using auto wide, so that Spring will auto inject everything whatever we need it, right? So these two are created. And the next one is, we were creating a constructor which is having dependency one and dependency two as a parameter, right? So and also what we are trying to do, whatever we are getting it from this here, okay, we were just passing it to dependency 1 and dependency 2. This is, we call it as constructor injection. Okay, constructor dependency injection. We were using constructor, to form this object, right? To get the real class object, we were doing it with the constructor injection. And similarly, we have setter injections. One is set dependency, and we were taking the object as, over here. So this is, we call it as setter injection. Okay, we have set dependency 1 and set dependency 2 for both. Okay, so I'm not doing anything other than that, right? And I'm just calling context.bean your business.class, right? And whatever the beans that Spring created, we were just trying to print it over there using context bean definition names, right? So let's run this program, and I will explain what exactly happening at the output side. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Before that, I wanted to show you something. Yeah. Where it went. Yeah, that should be okay. So I think that is for a different one. Okay. So let me tell you what is happening behind, right? Okay. So if you see here, so it is the Spring itself, is creating a couple of beans. Okay. One is dependency injection launcher application, and the other one is dependency 1, dependency 2, and your business class, right? And if you see, we have auto wiring, okay, for in the your business class, okay, via constructor to bean name dependency 1 and dependency 2. So this is auto wiring which is happening by default. And if you see here, we were trying to execute constructor, like, Spring is trying to execute constructor injection in your business class. And also it is executing setter injections, set dependency 1 and dependency 2, right? Okay. So now what exactly it has done? So if you see here till this part, one second, I'll show you side by side. Okay. Okay. Yeah, setter injection, set dependency 1 and set dependency 2. Okay. So this is which we are getting it from the system.out.println statements. But before that, Spring already taken care of creating those beans, okay, whatever required for this application, and what are all the auto wired things that it has to do, it is already doing that, without asking us our permission, because we already given whatever the things that we need to do, right? So if you see here at the rate auto wide, okay, we were utilizing setter injection, or you know uh, okay, so if you see here, um, we don't require this auto wide for constructor, but if you want, we can utilize it. Okay, it is not mandatory. Okay, so the spring will automatically do this. Okay, whenever we have this auto wide. Okay, so it is going to utilize this constructor injection and also the setter injection. So I'll show you one thing. Okay, I'll just comment these two, okay, to make sure that it is happening only the constructor injection, and I'll just run it. Yeah, so if you see here now, uh, what is happening? Yeah, so if you see here, it is the constructor injection only your business class that is only executed. That means Spring automatically given these things to the object creation was taken care by Spring. Okay, and it assigned that into the dependency one, correct? And we were just using this your business class, so it printed your business class over here, and which is having this dependency one and dependency two, and these are all the beans which were created by this, correct? Okay, so simply, like we were doing a constructor injection. Okay, using this constructor, and we were passing those dependencies, right? Whatever we have it, we're passing it as a variable, and Spring is automatically taking care for that injection. You don't require to worry about it, right? So you just declare that as a wherever we need that dependency, we just need to write it, and whenever we are calling at the rate auto wired, okay, so Spring will be taking care of in the background, it will be taking care of all the object creation and all, right? So so what is happening? So in the behind the screen, okay, it is taking care of all the steps, like which are not related to functional, right? So now let me just enable this one, and I just disable the constructor injection. Okay, and let's see how it works. Yeah, if you see here, the the dependency is getting executed, whatever setter injection is happening, right? So there won't be any changes over here, the output, but the changes will be always here. That's how the Spring is executing that injection, to the dependencies. So earlier we were using constructor injection. Now we were using setter injection, and I'll show you once when if I remove this auto wide and I'll try to run it. Yeah, okay, 1 second. Yeah, if you see here, if I remove auto wide, right, there is no dependencies happening. Sorry, there is no setter injections are happening. Okay, and it just created these as beans, right? Okay, So why it is created those as beans? Because they have the component, right? So they have component, so that's the reason it created those beans, but there is never an injection happened to this class, right? So that means if you have some method over here, right, that thing we were not able to still access because the injection was not happen over here, right? Okay, so let me, if I just enable it back, okay, Spring will automatically inject those objects. Okay, 1 second, let me just choose it. Okay, let me run this one more time. Yeah, so if you see here now, so whenever, okay, just a minute. Oops. Yeah, okay, yeah, it is coming now. Setter injection, set dependency 2 and set dependency 1. Okay, so these are the things that we call it as constructor and setter injections. Okay, so you can utilize them, okay, in all the ways, okay, to inject the objects, okay, using this constructor injection and also the dependency injection. Okay, so any questions on this? Okay, okay, so we were learning actually the Spring concepts, okay, but yeah, so there are a lot of other things that we need to check on it, with the using Spring, right? So what we are trying to do, right, we were going with Spring Boot, okay, and we will continue the discussions about Spring related concepts, okay, and we'll create couple more examples, okay, which are really, 1 second. Yeah. So which are really going to help us, how to improvise the code, whatever we are doing it, right? So in the Spring, right, we learned about Spring, like, it is having very much advantages, creating multiple applications, okay, either in either in either in the website or any of the application that we take it. Actually, Spring is giving a lot of dependency libraries that we can utilize, okay, to develop the applications, right? So but if that is the case, why we need the Spring Boot, right? So for the Spring Boot, actually it made very simple, okay. You can build web apps and REST API without Spring Boot, okay. What is need for a Spring Boot, right? What are all the goals of this Spring Boot? We are going to check all these things, okay, right now, in the going forward. Yeah, okay. So to understand that, we have to check um, what happened before the Spring Boot has been introduced, right? So Spring Boot, before the Spring Boot, actually we were trying to do uh, setting up the Spring projects, before Spring Boot was never easy because, all the dependency management, okay, uh, that means, whenever you wanted to write any dependency to your project, you have to manually write those pom.xml, and we need the dependency related code. We are just adding it over here, over there, right? And whenever we need something related to web application configuration, okay, so we always updated the web.xml file, okay, to change lot of configuration, related to the web application. Okay, and I did not show you about the context.xml. So for the third point, actually, earlier, we were using context.xml, to manage all these things, right? For uh, if you see here, I was just showing this context.configuration.xml. So initially, we don't have those annotations, okay? So how we usually inject that, objects, to the classes, right? So we usually do something like this. We usually create that bean ID is equals to game, and we were giving that class name for it. And this game was injected, as a constructor, or setter injection or something. We were doing those things actually in the context.xml, to run our application seamlessly, right? This one is very difficult, to write always, in the context.xml. Okay, so there is a lot of code that we usually write for managing, those Spring Beans. And yeah, so there are other things that we have. Okay, we were facing so many issues, okay, for deploying this application into multiple environments, and there is no such kind of clear configurations that we can separate it, based upon the environment wise, like dev, SIT, and production. Okay, so so so, for all these things, actually, for even for setting up a project which actually took a lot of days, to main, to set up the application itself, like the project itself, correct? So there are a lot of new things that Spring Boot has been providing, okay, uh, which is really helping us, to write uh, simple programs and, complex programs or complex projects, in a simple way of manner. Okay, so how it is doing it, we were going to check on it. Okay, so if you see here, why Spring Boot? Okay, we can build REST API without, yeah, we can build it, but why we need it, using Spring Boot, right? So it is very, lightly. Okay, so what Spring Boot does, right? So wherever we required those services, or wherever we require to create some web applications, okay, we go with Spring Boot because it has those capabilities, to give us, like, there are various things that Spring Boot having internally maintaining, okay, all those dependencies. Okay, we were going to discuss those things. Okay, these are the things which we are going to discuss about why Spring Boot was very much famous. Okay, uh, why it is helping, on which way that it is helping us, to make production ready applications very quickly. Yeah, these are the things that we need to check on it. Okay, so before that, like, how to build a great REST APIs, right? So what we need to do, we need to just identify what kind of resources that we need to give, right? So if you see here, which I took some example for um, the Facebook, or one of the social networking channel. Okay, so if you wanted to get the list of users who are present in that social network channel, okay, so you can utilize that slash users to return those things, right? If you wanted to get a particular person's post, right, whatever the post that he posted in last years, right? So that will give you users ID and post, right? It is going to return all the data back to you, right? And what are all the actions that we need to do, take it, like if it is a get request or if it is a put request, depending on that, we have to be very careful while writing those get, post, put and delete, right? So defining request and response structures and using appropriate response status like 200, 404 and 500. So we have to be very specific, while writing those response codes. Okay. So, and we have lot of other things that we whenever we are writing REST APIs, like validation, internationalization, and exception handling. There is HATIOS, okay, and versioning, documentation, and content negotiation, and there are a lot of other things also we do have in REST API best practices. Okay, so we are going to build couple of REST services, okay, which is going to be insert some values into the database as well. And these REST APIs, whatever we are building it, actually will be using it in the UI, so that it can get populated over there, okay, uh, in the screens. Okay, so let's go to the this one, whatever we talked about. Okay, so these are the main things that Spring Boot is having. First is Spring Initializer and Spring Boot Starter Projects and Spring Boot Auto Configuration and Spring Boot Dev Tools. Okay, and for the production ready application, we have logging, different configuration for different environments like dev, SIT and production, and monitoring. Okay, so there are other things as well. Okay, which is helping us application to make production ready, right? Okay, so we'll start with one by one. Okay, okay. So we were talking about what exactly the Spring Boot is going to help us, right? So the first one is we need a lot of frameworks first, to build a REST API, right? Or to build some kind of application features. Like what are all the things, right? For to build a REST API, we need Spring, Spring MVC, Tomcat, and JSON conversion, etc. Right? And to write unit test cases, I need Spring Test, JUnit, or Mockito. So depending on my requirement, I have to use one of the framework of it. Right? So how can I group and then make everything into an easy build, right? So here comes the starter projects, whatever we have it, okay, in the Spring Boot. What exactly the starter projects are going to do, right? The starter projects are already having a convenient dependency descriptors for different type of features. Okay, so how it is giving that, when we are going with Spring Initializer, I'll show you what are all the Spring Boot starter projects. Okay, and it will be very easy to understand them, right? So if you see here, Spring Boot provides variety of starter projects. What are all those? One is Spring Boot Starter Web, okay, Spring Web MVC, Spring Web, and Spring Boot Starter Tomcat, Spring Boot Starter JSON. All these things which are already having whatever the required things that you need it as in the dependency, Spring Boot already provides them as a starter projects. And for unit test, it provides Spring Boot starter test. And for whenever you wanted to talk to database using JPA, yeah, you can use Spring Boot starter data JPA. And if you wanted to use JDBC, it is already having Spring Boot starter JDBC. Okay, so if you want to secure your application or REST API, we have starter project for security as well, right? So these are all the things which we have, which we generally use it, in our application dependency, right? So define all application dependencies, right? That starters is going to help you, to find out your application dependencies very easily, and you can edit them whenever you are going to create a project in a Spring Initializer, right? So let's see how it does, right? Okay, one second. I think I need to show you guys first Spring Initializer. Okay, so I was talking about Spring Boot starter projects, right? So before that, like, before going to the next topic, I'll just show you what exactly the Spring Initializer is. I think you might already aware of it, but yeah, just yeah. Okay, so this is our Spring Initializer. Okay, so what exactly this does, right? The Spring Initializer will provide a lot of variety options, to create your application, you know. Okay, so what I was just showing, I was just taking a Maven project, and which is I'm just writing on Java. Okay, and just choose this release versions instead of going with the snapshots. Okay, and just give your group name, artifact name. So I'm not changing anything. I'm just keeping the same thing, com.example, and this is a demo. Okay, and so the packaging is jar or var, depending on it. Okay, so you can just choose that one. And right now I'm just using Java 17 in my local, so I'm just keeping this Java 17. And here comes the starter projects, right? Yeah, I was talking about these things. Okay, these are the various starter projects that which was already provided by Spring Boot. Okay, if you see here, this is a Spring Web. So what it is saying, build web including RESTful application using Spring MVC. Use Apache Tomcat as the default embedded container. So that means it is providing a lot of things in one dependency. So this is the one of the starter project which was provided by Spring Boot, right? Yeah, Spring Data JPA, right? Persist data in SQL stores with Java persistent API, right? Using Spring Data and Hibernate, right? So this is the one of the dependency which if you wanted to utilize, any database related things, yeah, you can still use this one. And Spring Boot starter project, right? Spring Boot starter. Okay, I'm sorry. One second. So it defaultly it add that, right? Yeah. Yeah. One second. Yeah. If you see here, this is our JDBC API, and this is Spring Data JDBC, and there's something changed. Okay, let me check about that. Okay. Yeah. So for now, just take these two as a dependencies. And when if you are ready with your dependencies for whatever you are going to create it, yeah, that's it. Then just go down and just click on generate. Okay. So a project will be downloaded directly to your local. So you are just, ready to import it, and you'll see all the default, what do you call, we yeah, one second, I'll show you. Yeah, so something, okay, let me pull that, okay, that demo project, okay, into the local, right? Import. Let me just go there. Yeah. So if you open the pom.xml right now, okay. So I did not added anything over there. So, but if you see here, while you added that, while you have added those dependencies over there, so it just added this Spring Boot starter projects. Okay. One is data JPA and Spring Boot starter web, and one is Spring Boot starter test. Right? Why it added all these things? These are all going to help us, while writing the application, whatever required for the database connection. It just added this dependency, and for all the web related things, REST API and all those things, we need this as a dependency. So these are the Spring Boot starter projects, okay, which will be having a lot of features, okay, which are going to help us, while writing the programs, right? So this is one of the best advantage which we see it in the Spring Boot, okay. And let me go to the next one, Spring Boot auto configuration. Okay, so before going to this, okay, so there is only 2 minutes left, okay, actually. So the meeting will be automatically ended, okay. So guys, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll continue the Spring Boot auto configuration, tomorrow in tomorrow class. Yeah, it might be little difficult to understand some of the concepts, okay. So if you really feel any difficulty, please let me know, okay. I will try to repeat that, or I'll give you give you a couple more examples, to make sure you understand that topic, okay. So please don't hesitate. Okay, I might be covering because of I need to cover a lot of things, so I might be a little faster, okay. So please let me know, okay.
Sure, Harish.
Yeah, thanks, Sija. So